Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and being an inspiration to others. We're always about positivity here on the show, and with me today I've got a very special guest. She is a trailblazer in the women's wrestling industry and just all of wrestling in general. She is one of, the most legendary TNA knockouts, now involved with NWA, six-time knockouts women's champion, tag team champion, one half of the duo Psycho Love. Pleased to welcome the one and only Angelina Love to Wrestling with Heart. Welcome, Angelina.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Good. Oh, I'm good. All good.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about your childhood and upbringing. Where did you grow up?
Grew up just outside of Toronto, Canada. Just me and my older sister and my parents. Dad worked the career 35-year job, and my mom was stay-at-home mom. So yeah, it was just big extended family and just very, very wonderful rock star parents.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Canada, can be very cold out there, a lot of times. I'm sure you guys have, warmer weather too.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that's why I ended up leaving Canada and moving to Florida.
Yes.
At some point.
Sure.
I'm a total snowbird. So
now, you were a big wrestling fan growing up. Who were like some of your favorites to watch?
yeah, I guess I probably started watching wrestling around 7. And I mean, like, Shawn Michaels was always my be all end all reason for, like, I loved Sable. But yeah, Shawn Michaels was definitely the reason that I got into wrestling for sure.
Yeah. So this was like the 90s Attitude Era, New Generation era. What was it about Shawn Michaels that you liked?
Oh, I don't know. It was just, I think he was like the ultimate baby face at the time. And I was young. I was just like, I mean, I started watching when I was 7, so that would have been like late 80s. But more got into it when I was like 14 years old, 15 years old. So that was like right after the Shawn Michaels post-concussion syndrome, won the Royal Rumble, and then won the title at WrestleMania 12. That was kind of like when I really got like hard into it.
Sure. That was a great moment, that Iron Man match. Who couldn't forget that classic that those two put on? Definitely. All right. So Shawn Michaels. Who else? You mentioned Sable as well. What was it about Sable that you really liked?
Oh, I mean, like, I don't know, just I've always wanted to um just have that look. Like, I just thought she was so beautiful. So I've just always loved like the big and the blonde, you know what I mean? So, and I just thought that she was just so perfect looking. And she was like so great as a little baby face when she first started with Mark Marrow. And then, when she became like her own character and she was a heel, she was great at that too. So I don't know. I just really liked everything about her and like how she looked. And for the Attitude Era, it was still it was pretty perfect for the time too, like what she was doing and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, very crazy times indeed, but it was a hot period for the business. A lot of people got into wrestling.
it was the best period for the business. We've never seen it since.
No. Here's hoping one day we get back up there for sure. So you got in, you made your debut. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was in the year 2000. Started working for different promotions. Talk about the training process. It's being a wrestler's not easy. It's hard. A lot of discipline involved. Pretty intense. Walk me through, the training process for you.
I mean, I started like my first show, I was 18 years old. And I just started off as a manager. And then like, there was just a bunch of us like Toronto people doing shows like Tracy Brooks, Gail, Beth Phoenix was coming up doing Toronto shows. Sin, like Edge and Christian had pretty much like just started going to or just got hired by like WWF, but they were like, so one of their friends, Rob Fuego, who was doing dark matches like all the time, anytime WWF or WWE was in Toronto. He became our trainer, and it was just like a whole bunch of us at this school. It was like Sin and his younger brother Steve and me and Chris Chambers, who runs Super Kicked in Toronto, I think. Gail Tracy, I mean, Taylor Wilde ended up coming in. So it was just like a whole bunch of us. So but the first time I ever like touched a wrestling ring to train was at Eric Young's school. And I did it for like 3 weeks and then I just quit because like I couldn't like bump without like landing on my butt and hitting my head and landing on my butt and hitting my head. My elbows were black. It was like everything hurt. I had no like control over my body and I couldn't get arm drags, like the bridging and just the weird movements and things you have to do for some moves. I was just like very frustrated, and I'm the kind of person where like I need to know how to do everything. The learning process I hate. I just want to like know how to do stuff right away, even though it's impossible. So I just quit wrestling and quit training and for like 6 months. And then I really missed it. And then I was like, nah, I should go back. And I think when I started going back, that's when I was like with Fuego School, and we all kind of like opened our own place and started training with him. And he's really good with training girls and helping us out. He's a great person, great personality, uh, loves to teach. And he was just, okay, like, couldn't have asked for a best trainer starting in the business. So that's kind of how I started and like getting into actually doing matches.
Nice. Very nice. I'm sure, you enjoyed being a manager as well. What can you tell me about that period?
I mean, it was okay. Like I didn't like love it. It was just like getting started because I didn't know how to do anything in the ring, but I was, going to do shows. And then I think I had probably tried to like bump a couple times untrained and like hit my head and was not good. And I was just really bored. Because I was managing these two guys and they were just wrestling the same tag team all the time. I had the same two spots every single match, and I was very bored. And I was like, I need to be doing more. I need to progress. So that's kind of when I started training.
Sure. Sure. Okay. So you made your debut, you wrestled for a variety of different places, different promotions. Memories of your first few matches?
I mean, my first match was atrocious. I think that's probably everybody's same first match story. I was wrestling this girl. I did not want to wrestle. I was just at a show to be there, like in the Detroit area. And Scott Demore was there, Chris Sabin was there. I think the Clowns were there too, ICP. They wanted a girls match, and I was like just one of two girls that happened to be there. And I was like, oh no, I am not ready. Like I cannot get in the ring. But there was this other girl, I think her name was like Dana or something. I can't remember. And they were like, oh, she's like a 3-year vet. Like she can get you through this match. Just figure some stuff out and whatever. Well, I mean, the second she got in the ring, she forgot everything. So she did not lead me at all. And because I was so new and so nervous, I had memorized everything. So I was telling her what the spots were. And then like she forgot her comeback. And I remember she was supposed to chop me. So I just told her to chop me. And she just like hauled off and just like chopped me directly in my eyeball. And just like my eye was just like all messed up and just like watering. And I couldn't see anything. And then somehow we just finished the match like not too long after that. And I was like, that was awful. I was like, she forgot everything, like chopped me in the eye. And so, yeah, that was my first match.
That's
It's so bad.
crazy. Oh man, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. But over time, you got better and you started getting more reps and put the work in. What advice did you get from your trainers, as you started getting into the business?
I mean, like kind of the most advice I got was once I got into developmental, like WW developmental, because it's just advice every day. But just like one thing that I always remember being told is like it's not really like so much the moves, it's like all the in-between stuff. So it's like your moves are always fine. It does not take long how to learn how to do moves, but it's your mannerisms in between. It's character and personality. It's the little things. It's remembering to go back and sell something. So just all that kind of stuff. I was always told like just focus on like the in-between things.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that piece of advice has stuck with you to this day. And now you had a couple of matches for TNA before you later became, the phenomenon that you are today, and that run with beautiful people. We'll get to that in a little bit. But you wrestled a few matches for Explosion. Any memories of that period of time?
I mean, they were so quick. I just remember doing one against Trinity. I think it was like 45 seconds long or something, and she just whipped my ass, and that was it.
Did they call you? Did they
No, I went to
contact you
WWE
after?
after that.
Oh, you went to WWE. Okay.
Yeah, so I did like some appearances for TNA when they were doing the Wednesday night shows at the fairgrounds every week.
Hmm.
We were just showing up there, like a bunch of us Toronto people were just going and showing up, like me, Sin, Tracy, Eric Young, like a whole bunch of us. But then I went to developmental. I got signed by WWE after.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, working for WWE, I mean, that's a huge stage, a huge platform. And I know you were with Deep South, which is one of their developmental territories at that time. What can you tell me about that experience?
Well, I chose to go to Deep South. When they hired me, it wasn't open yet. But they knew they were going to open it. So it was like you can go to OVW now if you want, or you can wait until this new one is open. And I thought that OVW was really full, and I was worried that I would get lost in the shuffle if I went there. And I think that probably wasn't the best decision, but that's just what I thought at the time. And we went and started Deep South. It kind of opened like I'd say like May 2005. And it was just me and 16 guys for like the first 6 months. So I really had to try my hardest and prove myself and keep up with the guys. And I think I did a pretty good job. And I think if you ask any of the guys that went there, they'd say the same thing.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of matches there. I believe you managed a few people there as well.
Well, I mean, I was wrestling at the time. When the Shane twins were the Gemini, I managed them for a little bit, but that's when I was coming back from my ACL injury. So,
I got you.
wasn't trying to go too hard wrestling.
Cool. And now I'm sure you had aspirations for going to the main roster at that time. I was watching some interviews with you in the past talking about that. Were there plans to bring you up to Raw or SmackDown at that time?
Yeah, there was a couple. I tore my ACL 10 days before one of the things they were supposed to bring me up for. So obviously that didn't happen.
Oh,
And
yikes.
then so I was out for 9 months. And then after that, there was something that I was supposed to be brought up for that I was literally planted in the crowd for, and it was the next segment they were going to film, and it got cut because
Oh, no.
Vince rewrote the whole show when it started, and my segment got cut. So there was probably like 3 times that I was supposed to go up, and it just didn't work out. So I mean, when I ended up getting released, I was devastated. But then everything that I did after that, kind of showed me that it was never meant to be for me in WWE at that time or ever. Did I want to like do a WrestleMania? Like, of course, like I don't know anybody in the business who doesn't, but I think, I was able to become a household name outside of WWE, which is really great, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I mean, you helped usher in um basically one of the biggest periods of women's wrestling with the knockouts. Definitely paved the way for what we see today with the women's revolution and WWE, as well as throughout the wrestling, world. You made your debut or return to TNA in 2007, helping form the Beautiful People. I mean, one of the most iconic women's stables of all time. How did that come up? Like, who came up with the idea, costumes, all that?
Well, I had from Deep South, I had pretty much like honed in being a heel is the best way that I can be in the ring. And like Velvet and I had met a couple times before, because she had come down and had a tryout at Deep South when I was there. And then we did a couple indies in between when I got released and kind of TNA calling all of us girls to start the Knockouts division. So I mean, it was our idea because like every girl was doing like their own singular character, and we were roomed together right away, so we were like hanging out, and we're very similar, same sense of humor, our sarcasm is on par. And we just dressed the same, like just the sexy little outfits and stuff like that, so we were like, well, everybody's doing their own one person thing. We should maybe like be like a team or a group or like something different, like work together. That'd be super fun. And we brought the idea to Vince Russo and he loved it. So that's how it started.
Yeah, I mean, and it took off. I mean, one of the most iconic teams of all of Impact. I mean, that Knockouts division was just stacked. You had yourself, you had Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, Jackie Moore, ODB. I could go on all day. Just, how does it feel to like know that, like, looking back years later, you kind of helped pave the way for what we see now?
Oh, it's awesome. And it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. Like nobody can ever take that from us. So it was, the fact that I like didn't make it in WWE, I think having that and kind of having like that catapult WWE using their women in a different way to, you know what I mean? Especially to compete at the time. I think that's awesome. And I think the reason that we worked so well is because that's what people were looking for. And they weren't getting that at the time in WWE. And we were on a great channel. We were on Spike TV, like everybody was watching that. And we were just like a really awesome alternative. And with the Knockouts division, it was like everybody was so different. It wasn't like 20 carbon copies of each other. So I think that really appealed. We could appeal to a very broad audience of people because everybody had something different to offer. So everybody could find something that they liked in one of us, you know? So I
Yeah,
think that was really important too.
exactly. You've wrestled so many people over the course of your career. Who have been like some of your favorite opponents to work with?
I mean, really bad at the favorites game. Don't have just one favorite, but like I loved working Awesome Kong. Obviously, I was terrified to work her when we first started because she just came from like 6 years in Japan and she was like real big and intimidating. And her and Gail's matches were like, ooh, hard hitting. But she kind of like adapted more to like the American style and like how we all wrestled, and she easily became one of my favorite people and one of my favorite people to work, like people outside of the ring. Her and I are still very good friends to today. Um, and like Gail, like we trained together. So that's always been really easy. Taylor Wilde, we trained together. We could work each other with, in our sleep. So but Velvet and I hated working against each other. We will
Really?
always say that we were like each other's least favorite to work against because we just never felt it. And we just liked being together so much. And we had so much success being together that working against each other at any point in time, like we just weren't feeling it.
Sure. And I mean, you won the Knockouts championship 6 times. That had to have been an amazing feeling, being a staple of that women's division, as the
Oh,
champion.
absolutely. That's I if you get into wrestling and you're not trying to like make it big or win a title somewhere, I mean, it's like, oh, I don't know, like maybe you're just doing it for fun. But like I was, I knew my worth. I knew I was really good. So when I finally got that opportunity to have the championship, I was very thankful for that because that just to me solidified, I was still like, I think like when you get released from WWE and it's like you think it's like your be all end all dream and then it's gone, you could be a little salty, a little bitter. So I think like me winning the title just kind of like proved to me that like I was good and I was worth it. And people did know that I could, carry a division and they could trust me. And like having that trust from your superiors obviously is very important too.
You later went to Ring of Honor. What can you tell me about your time there?
Well, I started in Ring of Honor. That was probably the first like name company that I did anything for. But right before I got signed to Developmental, I did some Ring of Honor shows. So when I went back there in 2019, it was kind of like a big 15-year full circle thing. Got to go with Velvet. We started working with Mandy, and we were doing really great stuff in the division there. I won the Women of Honor title. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like my time there wasn't long. It was like 3 years, I think, until it kind of like got bought. And then we had COVID in between that too. So there was like kind of a gap. And
Oh
then it
yeah.
was like everything that we were doing kind of changed. So I mean, but it was fun. It was good to go back there because it's like a different audience and a different locker room, a lot of guys that I didn't know. So it was very fun. I enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. COVID, I mean, that's just that just definitely set the wrestling world on pause. I mean, it survived.
Set the entire world on pause.
Yeah, definitely the entire world on pause, but that had to have been hard, like not being able to do what you love and go out there and compete. I mean, what were you feeling at that time?
Well,
As
I mean, it's when I would have been doing it for 20 years at that point, so I didn't mind a little break, but it was tough. Um, babe, Troopers digging in the mail. Sorry, with cats on the counter. Um, actually, I it was the weirdest part was when we did go back to filming, um, having no people there. It's very weird having to perform just like you normally do in front of
yeah,
no people. But I think that's just another part of this business where it's like, well, you're always learning. It's like you still got to do your job, so you got to learn how to adapt. So it was weird because then um we got really used to doing stuff in front of no people. And if anything messed up or if anybody needed to do their finish again or whatever, you could just stop the cameras. There's nobody there. And, start it, fix it and start it up again and then fix it and,
post
piece that
production.
together in
Yeah,
post. And then once we got back to having people, like we're all nervous again. Like, oh my God, like there's people here now. We got so used to doing it in front of no people. But it's wrestling. It's like once you start doing something, you just kind of get used to it pretty quickly. So
yeah. Well, you're now part of the National Wrestling Alliance. You and Merton, Psycho Boy Fodder. Tell me about how you got involved with the NWA.
Well, I mean, I've known Billy forever, like a really long time. So once, literally the day that we had the phone call finding out that Ring of Honor was going to cease to exist as we knew it, I had contacted NWA because like Velvet was there and like I knew a bunch of people that were there. So it's like when stuff like that happens, like you gotta quickly figure out your next move. So I did that. And then I started probably like 5 months later.
Ah, okay. All right. So this psycho love gimmick that we see on television right now. Whose idea was it? Merton told me that you guys met on television through TV tapings. What was it about the psycho love gimmick that really got you intrigued, and whose idea was it?
I mean, like, well, we had started dating pretty much as soon as we met. So it was just kind of like a natural thing to do together. We wanted to work together. Um, and we're both heels and we can both be really good characters. So we had just like talked about it one day, I think in my kitchen. And then just decided to do it at an indie and get footage because we wanted to be able to do it at NWA because I was working there and he was starting to come to the shows. So we got the footage and we gave it to Billy, and I mean, he literally just ran with it right away. Next tapings, it was like we were doing it.
Let's switch gears now. Talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of the ring. Tell me about some of the like charity organizations or things that you've done in your community outside of wrestling.
Um, I know that when we were with TNA, we did a lot of charity stuff, and it's more like um proceeds from the show will go to like a company chosen charity, or before shows you'll go to like a local hospital and you'll visit like kids in the cancer ward or stuff like that. So that's kind of more of what we did, like charity wise, I guess, like before shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to see people, that are going through a hard time and wanting to make their day. Any particular stories you care to share about one particular moment that touched your heart?
Well, I mean, like I had started a GoFundMe, like kind of like through my Instagram account a few years ago for kids with cancer. Just because there was one time I think we were like in Indiana and we had gone to see the kids with cancer prior to a show. And it was like, it's just I think unless you see it, you kind of like don't understand like the depth of like what the parents go through watching their child battle this deadly disease and like everything the kids have to go through. And their bodies and their systems are just so young and fragile. And it's just a very eye-opening thing to see. And I remember like following and contacting a bunch of moms who had kids with cancer, like babies and like young children on Instagram. And I just wanted to, they were always talking about like how like this fluffy blanket brought comfort, or it's like, they need this stuff, but it needs to be non-toxic. So I had started this GoFundMe, and I was probably able to help like, I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 families, I think, with kids. Just I would just go and I would buy like the softest, fluffiest like teddy bears and the softest, fluffiest blankets and anything that those moms needed for their children specifically. And I would like take a picture of everything so people knew what their money was going towards. And then I would send it to the families. So that was just like my little way of being able to help too. And now like being a mom, has made me like hypersensitive to stuff like that. So that was just like my kind of chosen thing. And then just like last week or 2 weeks ago, we did oh, there's something called, let me find it. It's called something gowns. One of the moms that I had followed, her baby ended up dying of cancer. He was only like 19 months old, I think. He was a very, very young. Um, and there was something called something gowns. Oh shoot, I can't find it. Oh wait, it's under my shop. I still follow her on Instagram, and she was, um, what is it called? Brave Gowns is what it's called. And basically, Brave Gowns is kids, not just kids with cancer, but kids going through any type of disease or ailment or anything. These gowns that instead of like wearing like the papery kind of like hospital gowns, they can wear their own gowns. They're very soft, they're cozy, kind of gives some comfort. So we bought 4. And what it does is you choose whichever child you want to send it to, and they have a specific print that they want, whether it's like Blippi or Barbie, or it's just got ducks on it or a rainbow or whatever. You can choose it and pay for it, and then the company will ship it directly to that child. So we just did that. When did we do that? Like a week ago. And you just basically sponsor a gown and it goes to the kids. So like this was like a Blippi one that like one of the kids
Oh, that's
wanted
so
that we like
cute.
bought and sent it to. So that's just kind of like, I don't look at that as like a charity thing though. I just kind of look at that as like what should be just like a nice normal
Yeah,
everyday like I
something you're
want to give
doing
or I
nice
want to
for
help thing to
others.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very sweet. Why do you feel passionate about helping others?
We live in a really weird world, and I don't think it's that hard. You know what I mean? And it's just like a lot of people, I think just a lot of with like mental health and all that kind of stuff today, it's like it's just not hard to just be like nice and normal. And listen, if I can just do my little part, then that's all I can do. So,
Yeah,
and teach my
definitely.
kid that too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've been a mom now. How does it feel, to, you know, raise the next generation? Because they're our future.
Oh yeah, I mean it's great. I'm totally obsessed with my son. Like we still share the same soul. And he's the best. He's definitely a little extension of me. And it's great. I think it's probably made my emotions be a lot higher too, because like I can't watch movies where like kids are separated from their moms or they're screaming or they're scared and I'm just like, ah, like I can't handle it. Um and I don't know if that was just like a becoming a mom thing, but it's definitely been part of that anyway. Uh but I mean it's the best. There's no better. It's a job, but there's like no better job for sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. Think he may want to follow in mom's footsteps and dad's footsteps?
I mean, not leading him down that path, but if he chooses to be a wrestler, obviously I've got plenty of time and experience. I can hopefully guide him along the right way. So,
Yeah, never say never. Well,
but we're
Angelina.
hoping not. Hoping not. I'm hoping not.
All right. Well, Angelina, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you about, your time in wrestling and stuff that you do outside of the business. Where can people find you on social media so your fans can find you and want to check out what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, my Twitter's at actual A Love. Instagram is A Love, the number 4life 222. And I have an exclusive content website, angelinaforever.com. That's pretty much the main things.
Very nice. Well, thank you again, and
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're more than welcome to come back on the show.
maybe we'll do a duo
Yeah.
Jennifer Love interview.
Yes. Love to. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. I
Take
appreciate
care.
it.
Awesome. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.